All right, best hour of their day is back. Fern and I are on our road trip, and we're here to discuss each box that we've went to, and we're going to take them in chronological order. It seems like it was many weeks or months ago, but it was in fact only yesterday that we were at CrossFit Invoke.
This is kind of like between two J's instead of between two. It could be two Ferns, but you're not a Fern.
If you want, I can be like, Fern, how do you manage to be so fit but so unathletic looking?
It's a good question. I think it's just genetics.
Well, if you know the show, it's a great show. Zach Galifianakis is hysterical. But let's break down the box. So what we wanted to do is give a little bit of a behind the scenes of maybe what we thought about the box itself, the presentation, the coaching that went down the 6 criteria. Talk a little bit about the programming, the workout. What was your first, reaction when we walked into CrossFit Invoke?
Well, honestly, my first reaction is a little bit of empathy. So, like a lot of, and here's why, right? We've been to 5 boxes in 2 days, and at least 4 of them, there was somebody there, either the coach or one of the athletes that I did their level 1. And having owned an affiliate for 10 years, I know how nerve-wracking it is to have another coach come into your facility and you just feel judgment. Like, we're not there to judge people, obviously, but like...
Well, we kind of are.
We kind of are, yeah. But you know what I mean? Like, I have empathy for that. Like, I get it that they might throw people off their game, so I'm not like casting full judgment on them. Like, this is how they normally act. They're probably doing things, like the level 2. People do weird stuff when they get nervous.
I think that's a good point, and in fact, we're going to talk about each box that we've been to over the coming weeks, but really all of them have been quite welcoming and, like you said, really cast their ego aside. Because it would have been very easy, especially when we talk about Invoke. Ryan had no idea that we were coming.
Yeah.
And we did a good job preparing ourselves. We had a girl, Sydney, helping us get ready. She definitely did her due diligence. So clearly there was a miscommunication.
Yeah.
And he was just like, he rolled with it. He was cool.
So the first thing was, like, he was super welcoming when we came in, which I think is always an indication of the gym in general. But the other thing, I think, it didn't seem that he changed anything about the way that he would coach a class, at least not from what I could tell. And I've seen a lot of people coach classes, but once he started going, then I think it was a little bit of, he kind of got into his rhythm. So I thought it was good.
So let's talk about each class and each workout. So at CrossFit Invoke, and you might have to fill me in a little bit, but we'll talk about the warm-up, the workout itself.
We did a front squat.
Oh yeah, we worked up to a heavy set of 3 with 2 seconds. Pause at the bottom. And then we went into a Metcon where they had a sport and a fitness option. You did the sport, which was...
It was muscle, it was, what was it, 12 minutes?
12-minute AMRAP
12
for
minutes,
either
it was
one.
muscle up, thruster, row.
And mine was pull-up, thruster, row, and what changed was you did a barbell thruster with 75.
Correct.
I did a single dumbbell thruster with 35. There was really no prescribed weight. And then, again, and we talked a little bit about it on the show, but you did a 24-calorie row while I did a 400-meter row. Do you really think there was any difference there?
No, which could, depending on how you look at it, like, I don't know if they intended there to be any difference. You were basically a half a round in front of me.
Well, I meant even just on the row. Like, what was the purpose of you doing 24 calories versus...
Oh, just the row? Probably not. We'd probably have to time that out. But I think both of them are probably, if you think about a 400-meter row, it's probably a minute 20 to minute and a half, depending on where you're at.
Same with the 24.
And then 24s, most people, even in fight going back, could get 20 calories in 50 seconds on the front end of that workout. So, if you go to 24, maybe a little bit shorter. Depending on what you're looking at, but
so obviously Ryan's not here to defend himself, so we don't want to bash him. But let's give some feedback. If people watched it, let's give some feedback, some things we like, some things that we think he could have improved. And I think overall, like we've said, he did a great job.
He did a great job. The warm-up was fantastic. I was ready to squat when we got to the barbell.
Absolutely. We got in on Sunday. That was the first class we took. It was 9 a.m. We're sleeping at an Airbnb, Nate's Airbnb, and while very welcoming, it's not your own bed. We didn't get a great night's sleep. We were up late, and you're like, okay, I got to not only wake up, but I got to get below parallel on a heavy set of 3, and I think he did a phenomenal job. getting us warm. Like you said, by the time we got there, I was like, I'm ready to squat.
Yeah, and it's been cool for me. I always find it, the thing that I take away from most gyms now is I'm always trying to steal things from warm-ups, because warm-ups is one of the big things from a coach that this monotony sets in really quickly, and I find it hard to continuously be creative for warm-ups. Like you feel like there's only so many things you can do for warm-ups, but in 5 gyms, I've probably stolen no less than 5 things that are like just different movements and different types of warm-ups to add into my warm-up repertoire. So
what's one thing you might have grabbed from Ryan?
I think there was a couple of the floor movements. I don't remember what they were. I wrote them down. I have to go back and look at them. But like there's something in every warm-up that we've done so far, and I was like, I'm gonna steal that.
And I like the fact that he led it.
Mm-hmm.
He was involved. It could have been very easy. Hey, let's write it on the board and go. But he was involved. He was talking to the people. And then by the time we got to the front squats, like we said, we were pretty warmed up, and he stuck with us. I think, if anything, he probably, his 9 a.m. could have been a little bit louder.
Yeah.
A little bit louder.
But there was only 8 of us, I think, in the class. So it wasn't a huge class, and the space isn't enormous. So, I mean, I thought it was appropriate. The one thing I think it has been a common trend, so this is not just with Invoke or Ryan, all in all, I think the classes run really well, is for the most part, people are doing a pretty good job teaching. But then when it comes to the coaching, I think, and we'll talk a little bit about juice, but I think there's been one where the coaching aspect of it, of like seeing and correcting movement, putting people in better positions. That is where like a lot of coaches, like that's not their bread and butter, because they probably either haven't been coaching long enough for that.
Well, not just that they haven't been coaching long enough, they don't have the time. I mean, the one other consistency
It's his part-time gig. He's a pharmaceutical guy.
Well, not just that. Yeah, but you're right. But almost every box we've been to has crammed as much as they could into an hour. And that just doesn't lend itself to either teaching or correcting.
And I'm not sure, but like of the one that we have been to out of 5 that did not do it, would be the one that we said had the most coaching.
Absolutely.
So I don't know if that's coincidence, but my guess is not.
Well, then what comes first, right? So what comes first? Do you get to be a better coach? So you say, hey, I want more opportunity in a class? Or do you program first in such a way that allows it and become a better coach?
I mean, this is kind of a chicken and the egg.
Chicken, what is it? Is it the chicken or the egg?
I mean, I figure if we're talking about how evolution works.
Well, we got a religious guy over here. Nate's job is
there was an
church.
egg. There was an egg that probably had the chicken.
Nate believes otherwise. I'm
yeah,
guessing.
I mean, listen, who knows? I don't know.
Nate, do you believe the chicken or the egg?
Oh, the chicken.
See, there we go.
Just spontaneously
Nate's behind the
combust,
scenes.
All right,
But
no, it was a good class. And given the amount of stuff that we did in the class, we did the heavy front squats, we did the warm up, we did the 12-minute AMRAP, and we did a little bit of a cool down at the end. I thought he did a very, very good job at managing the time, because on my end, typically that feels rushed. None of that felt rushed to me. There was a brief moment where I think he might have felt time constrained when he was going through the muscle up and the pull up, where it was probably maybe a little too brief, but I'm not going to fault him for that.
I agree with you on that. I think that would have been the opportunity to teach.
Correct.
And from what I remember, it was like, hop up, give me 10 kip swings. All right, hop up, give me 2 reps of what you're going to do type of thing.
Yeah.
Where it could have been like, all right, let's go over the kip swing, Superman hollow, etc. That could have been. Let me ask you this question. You complimented him on wearing a coach's sweatshirt, correct? However, and I don't want to make, if Ryan's watching this, he had like sweats, a sweatshirt, and a wool hat on. Where is the balance of the professionalism of being a coach?
I mean,
I'm not knocking it. He looks comfortable and warm.
It's not a big box gym, and if you walk into my gym, like I'm going to be wearing a coach shirt and then be wearing sweatpants, and depending on like we have heat in our gym, so I'm probably not wearing a beanie, but they had heat in there, but I mean, like it wasn't super, like it wasn't hot. So I mean, it's a gym. So if you're wearing a coach uniform, if you will, I don't think you need to be wearing a polo. I'm far more concerned with how you conduct yourself as a professional, because I think there's a lot of leeway with your attire in a CrossFit environment. It would almost look weird if I walked into a CrossFit gym and you were wearing a polo and slacks. Like I'd be like, well, this is not what I'm looking for.
Do you think that's the direction it's going to go?
I think there's middle ground there. I think where you can look professional, where you're not wearing, I don't know what that is, but I think it's like nice coaches shirts and like things that eventually what I think would be really nice is if all of your coaches are always wearing branded coaches shirts or branded attire, whether it's sweatpants or hats, stuff like that, where they step on the floor, like everything that they wear represents your brand.
I agree. I think going to the polo shirts, which I actually tried for a brief period of time, and the coaches rebelled. They hated it. And, then I think what's nice is, hey, whether you wear CrossFit Rife or whatever box you're at, as long as it's a shirt that has the logo, it doesn't even have to say coach, even better if it's an actual coach's shirt. But like anything, I
think at some point like that needs to be mandatory. Maybe not for you personally at your box like today, but I think at some point if you're going to make that transition and we're going to make this an uber professional run facility, it needs to say coach or staff or something on it so that when somebody walks in the door, they're easily identified and at least the person who's walking your door who probably has anxiety has some direction about who to talk to. Like you're clearly the person who I need to speak with or a person who works at this facility. So I think there does need to be some distinguishing mark that says I work here.
And don't make your coaches pay for their coaches' shirts.
No, buy it for them.
But some boxes do that. Like, hey, we'll give you one, but I coach 5 days a week.
That falls in the same bucket of I'm going to make you coach classes to work off your membership. Like, that's garbage. Don't do that.
All right, so let's wrap up CrossFit in Vogue. Is there anything else you would say about it?
No, I thought it was a great class. The cool down at the end was really good. There was a lot of banter there at the end, which I think is nice. And having that at the end was a good community piece that I was a big fan of. Like we were joking around. That's where we learned quite a few things about the different members. We learned there was multiple students in there, that there was a doctor in there. She's a pediatrician.
There's a couple moms.
Couple moms in there. So that is where, and considering that we got all of that information, but we didn't get it till the end, but we got it is what is important.
And I think, you and I enjoy that banter with strangers, if you will. But that's something any coach should be doing. If you don't know that, we found that out on our first day.
Yeah.
And we would have went back the next day and said to Colleen, how was this? Or to the doctor, how was your day? That's the kind of stuff you need to be doing if you want your members to stay forever.
Yeah.
Well, shout out to CrossFit in Vogue. Shout out to Ryan. Thanks again for having us. And we look forward to going back.
Yeah.
And we appreciate you letting us drop into CrossFit in Vogue.
All right, guys, back. Best hour of their day. We were on the box tour, doing a little bit of a recap between two J's.
Between
two J's. Talking about, so we already talked about CrossFit Invoke, but we're going to talk about CrossFit 12th State. So what was your first impression of that gym?
Clean.
Super clean.
That was my very first impression. We pulled up, and it was like a standalone box. It reminded me of what was probably like an old Goodyear or Auto type place.
I would agree. It did have that. I bet that's what it was.
It had open windows in the front, which was probably like the lobby where you go pay and maybe they have tires. And then the gym's aspect had lots of garage doors, so it makes sense. Like you can pull through the cars. But it was clean. Everything was
And when we
orderly.
say it was clean, it was clean. Like that place is one of the cleanest gyms I've ever been to.
Yeah, they clearly, whether it's themselves or pay someone, they keep every aspect of it clean.
They have a cleaning service that comes in 5 times a week. I asked Hannah about it.
There you go.
Because I was like, this place is clean.
Yeah, and it was, secondly, super friendly. I think this day and age, you're getting a lot of boxes that always have some sort of ambassador or front desk person just saying hi. And oftentimes it's the owner, a coach, someone that's coaching a later class. But if I would have walked in there as a new person through the lobby and not saw someone, it would have been very intimidating to have to go through the next door to get into the gym, especially if class had started.
Yeah, so Hannah, who is one of the owners, her and her husband, Cliff, own the gym, and she was sitting at the front desk. She immediately greeted both of us, and obviously super welcoming, but that's an incredible first impression for any gym. And I know a lot of people struggle to wrap their head around having somebody who's there full time. Admittedly, we're at 10 years, and we just did that about 7 months ago, where I brought somebody in. I have somebody in the facility who's there all day from start to finish, no matter what day it is. And that's a lot. And looking back on it, I think I would have tried to figure out how to make that happen much, much sooner.
Yeah, because whether it's that first welcoming face, or if somebody walks in, this is the worst. Somebody walks in while the coach is coaching. You don't want to lose that potential member, but you're going to immediately be distracted. So maybe you either jot that person's name down, try to remember to call them later, or you sacrifice your coaching of the class to sign them up.
So maybe you're not there. You need to figure out a scenario to solve that problem. And so what we did at our gym before we had that, what most gyms have a TV because they use Wi-Fi or some other check-in platform that they do. So it's generally run off of a Chromebox or an Asus or something like that. So just pull up a tab, and if you don't have a contact us landing page or form on your website, first of all, fix that. But basically, we always have that page pulled up behind the Wi-Fi screens. So it's just a quick click in the event that somebody walked in and like no other staff happened to be there. We'll just grab that person and say, hey, listen, I can't talk to you right now. I'm coaching a class, but what you can do is fill this form out. It'll take 10 seconds. We'll call you back very, very quickly and we'll answer all the questions and we can set up a time to come in for you to sit down. So if you don't have the ability to have a staff member take that role for you, there's still ways to be able to capture that information so you can follow up with that person and bring them back in and have that discussion. So
and then make sure you follow up with them quickly.
Like you need to call them or text them immediately, like upon getting that form.
So outside of that, what I thought was the gym was spacious, and again, it was a lot going on in the hour. There was a clean complex and then a clean and jerk EMOM.
Correct.
And then we also had the Metcon at the end. So there was a lot of moving parts going on in that 1 hour.
So we did 2 clean complex. Well, they weren't separate. They were in the same kind of.
Oh, that's right. We alternated.
Yeah, we alternated, right? So there was 2 different clean complexes in there, but in the same kind of piece of the workout. And then we went to double under, pull up, snatch.
Yeah.
So think about that. We're teaching. You're teaching the clean. You're teaching the jerk. You're teaching the snatch, double under, and pull up all in the same workout.
But like we talked about, was there a lot of teaching?
I think there was a fair amount of teaching that again, like, and this is common. So this is not us picking on any one particular coach. Like in general, the coaching is what you see the least of.
Yeah, what we've picked up so far on the tours, there's a lot of shuttling from evolution to evolution, but not so much what we've discussed, that one workout a day, and we're going to teach and coach you for 20 minutes before getting there. Now, one thing that we did point out yesterday that was done really well was the staggering of the EMOMs. So that way the coach can see half the group start at the 0, the other half start 30 seconds in and just get more eyes on.
Yeah, so we had roughly 10 people in our class. So what Kendall did was she basically offset by, I think, 30 to 60 seconds. And that way she only had 5 athletes to look at every 30 to 60 seconds. And in that EMOM, you have a little bit more time to interact there. So from a coaching standpoint, that's really smart. And if you saw the class after ours, which I think was the 5:30, or maybe it was the 5, it was significantly larger. So they probably had almost 20 people in that class. So she, already having that plan in place, had she coached the next class, would have only had to look at 10 versus 20, because I don't care how good you are, that's tough.
Yeah, and whether you have 10 or 2, you might as well do that because it gives you the opportunity to look at everybody.
Yeah.
Right? Even if you have 2 people, I get to watch every single set that you do.
Yeah, so from a group management standpoint, I thought that was very, very well done.
I thought that was excellent. And I thought, again, it was a lot in 1 hour, but it never felt rushed. And in both classes at Invoke and then also at 12th State, we had about 5 minutes to stretch at the end.
Yep.
Which is key because I like to stretch a little bit, and I left feeling better than if it was like, all right, good job, especially that Metcon, heart rate's up, double unders, chest to bar, and then just to kick us out.
Yeah, and that's where I got to chat a little bit with Wanda and that, get to meet people, and she had started a different gym and moved here about a year ago. She's been there for a year. But again, I think there should be some very intentional emphasis put on that cool down at the end to start building that camaraderie within. That's how you have a community. If you have an hour long and it's jam packed and everybody just gets shuttled through and there's no opportunity for people to interact with each other, it's really hard to create relationships. Because in that class, I was joking with them afterwards. They have what they call Maroon Mondays,
Yeah, like
which is
3 of them.
Yeah, so it's just for the 3:30 class, and it's like a secret group that they have. And I
Oh, is
and
that what it was? I didn't pick up on that it was a secret group.
It's a secret group that they started like a year ago, and so I didn't realize it until they said it when I was in the little locker room area afterwards, and I realized that they were all wearing maroon, and I was like, this is cool. This is really cool.
And you know, if you're coaching and you take your 1 hour timeline, I think it's basically at this point mandatory. 5 minutes in the front, 5 minutes at the end, whiteboard brief, cool down. You have 50 minutes for a class.
50-minute class.
You need to accept that, and that whiteboard brief is invaluable, as is that cool down.
Yeah.
I think one thing we should point out about 12th State that was really cool, after we got to hang out with Cliff, who is the owner of the box along with Hannah, and he's a former regional athlete, and he now takes the 5 a.m. class multiple times every week, and while he's probably not quite as fit as he was when he was at the regionals.
I bet he's still pretty fit.
He's still very fit, but more importantly, it's great for the community. And it's great to see someone as fit as he is realize the importance of doing class.
I think that unless you have a coach or a staff member who is legit a contender for a sanctional spot, that it should be mandatory that they work out in the classes. And if not, they should be doing the same programming. For instance, I don't always work out with the class. I try to as often as possible, but if I'm not, I'm doing that day's workout or one that we're trying to test in programming. I'm not doing something else.
Yeah, and I would even say, even if you're a sanctional level athlete at this day and age, you're trying to crack the top 20 in the open, you could still do a Metcon.
Yes.
Like, do your own additional stuff, but then hop into a couple of Metcons a week. And what we have found, I mean, after 2 days of training multiple times, we don't want to work out. But as soon as you get to class and you get that vibe going and the community aspect, it's fun again.
And I don't think we should overlook the fact that people want that inspiration. Again, if we're talking about educate, inspire, entertain, that inspiration is key, and those good athletes are inspiring to those people who are just starting their journey or who are just trying to get that muscle up or trying to snatch for the first time. Like, they need to have that kind of carrot dangled out in front of them, and those good athletes are that, because that's the way it was back in the day. Everybody worked out together, and I think that's the way it should still be.
That is CrossFit.
It's CrossFit.
Well, 12th State doing a great job with that. Thanks, Hannah. Thanks, Cliff, for having us. Thanks, Kendall, for coaching. Any last minute?
No, I thought it was great. You guys are doing whatever you guys are doing. Keep doing it. I was very impressed with the facility, with the coaching staff. Again, I'm going to steal some things from your gym.
Keep your box clean. The third stop on day one of our road trip was called Hayes Barton CrossFit. And I think Hayes Barton is, correct me if we're wrong, Nate, but like this area of town.
Yeah, so it's in
Nate's,
5 points though, correct?
5 points,
Yeah.
But it was like, it was right on the corner of like 5 different areas, or what? Like,
it's like a big intersection of like, yeah.
But it was really cool because it was like being like an old Main Street. Like every town has a Main Street.
Yeah.
And it was like going into Main Street and having, like, back in the day, it was probably like, you know, she told us it was a bar or whatnot, but it was like a barber shop or that, and now it's a CrossFit box. So it was pretty cool. And you maybe you can't tell the size of the room that we're in right now, but the box was literally this size.
I mean, it wasn't this size.
It was double. It was not
double
much
this.
more than double.
So I asked.
You said 1,000.
I asked Kat, and I said I was swagging it. I said about 1,000. It was probably closer to 800.
I would say
900.
I would tell you it was smaller because my first box was 800, a racquetball court, and it was smaller than a rack. Not including the back space, but the usable floor space was probably 700.
It was tight, but it was a
small.
cool spot. It's storefront in like an historical area of Raleigh, so they probably get a lot of traffic going by there. So it had a cool little vibe to it. Even though you walk in and it's nothing you look at and it's like this overwhelming box, like one of these, like going to CrossFit Reebok 1 or something like that, where it's extravagant, but it's like it had a really cool homey vibe to it, which is the same vibe that we got from all the people in the facility.
Yeah, and as you saw in the video, I mean, 3 kind of power racks and 2 bikes, 2 rowers. That was really all of the equipment on the floor.
Yep, everything else, they had a little like closet area in the back.
And I think you can argue, like, was that, if that were your space, is that the equipment you would have had?
I mean, you can be a little bit more creative these days because of some of the space-saving accoutrements that Rogue makes. So like maybe the foldable squat racks you can have in there to get a little bit of floor space back there. But
or even a half rig on the wall.
Yeah, coming off of the wall.
And still get those squat. I mean, it's going to take about the same size, but this way you have a little more pull-up bars.
Actually, I didn't even think about that. So they probably only had 3 pull-up bars.
Yeah.
In the squat rack.
Which means you have to have some creative programming, which I think she did yesterday.
She did, and we talked about that. And I think she's going to be well served as she evolves because she's having to navigate those waters now. And she's not one of these people that opens with 4,000 square feet and has the luxury of being sloppy or, overzealous with the programming.
Yeah, and let's talk pros and cons. And we don't want to, none of this is bashing. Every box has been welcoming. Every box has been fun. But I would say about Hayes Barton, at least on that first day, you really felt the community vibe.
It was awesome. She started off with a question of the day.
I loved it, and it was a tough question.
It was a tough question.
It was, what was it?
Guilty pleasure TV show.
Right, and yours was...
Love Island.
Well, no, his wasn't Love
Liam's
Island.
Liam's was Love Island.
Yeah, mine was Impractical Jokers.
Mine
and what
was
yours?
Working Moms.
Working Moms. I don't know if that's a guilty pleasure. I think that's a pretty popular show.
I mean, I consider me wasting time watching Netflix a guilty pleasure.
All right, well, you've had cartoons on most of the time we've been here.
It just makes me feel at home because I have 2 kids.
So I love the question of the day. She was super friendly. And then, let's talk a little bit about Rachel. Rachel was one of her members, came in clearly having had a bad day.
So let's talk about the scenario. So she came in probably 25 minutes late.
No, was she that late? It was.
Yeah, because
nodding, was it that?
because we were almost done with the squat portion of that.
Yeah, second time we had to squat yesterday.
Yeah.
By the way.
Constantly varied people. Listen, we didn't die. It'll be fine.
Yeah, but you're right. I knew she was late. I didn't think it was 25 minutes, but yeah, in retrospect,
it definitely, for the most part, would exceed the point where a lot of coaches would say, "It's fine, hop in." But I think Kat made a good decision there.
Well, she clearly had to think about a couple things. It was the last class of the day, right? The next class was a yoga class, which clearly maybe Rachel doesn't like and not necessarily what she was looking for in that moment. But yeah, it wasn't even a debate. I kind of saw it happen, and I just immediately was like, cool. Like, I would have let her hop in as well. But I think a lot of coaches wouldn't, and I think that's really what best hour of their day is. Like, hey, I realize, obviously it's the best 30 minutes of her day at that point.
Yeah.
But I realize, you're a paying member, you're late. I'm not questioning why you're late, but welcome.
You shouldn't, particularly because she was adept enough to figure out that Rachel needed that. Like, she needed to be there and do something for the day. So that was a good decision from a coaching standpoint. And she was able to let her hop in for the last, what was that, a 10-minute, or it was like she wanted it to be 10 to 12 minutes or whatever that little AMRAP piece was at the end. No reason not to let her hop in.
And in fairness, it was a pretty basic workout that didn't require a ton of warming up.
Jump squats, sit-ups, and then ground to overhead with a plate, which,
right.
Again, not a lot of complex things going on there.
And even if you did no warm-up, by the time you got to the weightlifting, which was the plate ground overhead,
you're ready to go.
You're pretty warmed up. And I would tell everyone watching Rachel left in a better mood.
I would agree.
Mostly because of me.
Yeah, because you stopped talking to her.
No, I like to pick up. I can tell when people are having a bad day, as can you. And it's like you just want to let them, whether it's vent, give them a hug.
Yeah.
Kind of like, I tend to go with like, hey, I'm going to be a nuisance to you, but it's distracting you from your bad day.
It was borderline nuisance.
Yeah, being a little bit of a nuisance. So let's talk about the programming. There's a lot going on in an hour.
Yeah, a lot. And again, like, there's some things she has to think about in her gym. Like, you just can't program like you probably normally would in a traditional gym, because it's not a traditional gym. It's very, very small, limited equipment. Again, 2 rowers, 2 bikes. So and they cap their classes at 8 because of the space. And I would tell you, you're not putting 8 barbells on the floor at Hayes Barton.
Yeah, I would guess most workouts there turn into either partner or interval style.
Yeah, some sort of station work.
Because you're absolutely right. There's no way you're getting, I'd say 6 would have been tight.
6 would have been dangerous.
Barbell, especially depending on what the other movements are.
Yeah.
And then, like you pointed out, there was only 3 spots for pull-ups. So that means And I think you can get people very fit that way. Personally, I love team workouts and I love interval workouts. You know, if we would have taken a workout, even something simple like Grace, 30 clean and jerks, you know, that can either be 2 heats. It can be, hey, today's Grace is sets of 5 unbroken, but you're still going to get to 30, so I'm doing 6 sets of 5. Or you can do Fran, but it's I go 21, you go 21. You can, you know, you can really do anything you want there, especially like you said, she capped it at 8, so she's aware of it.
Yeah, but I thought the class was run well. She clearly cares about the community. You know, she covered because there's only 3 squat racks, it's easy for her to get around and work with everybody. So that is the plus of having a smaller community, a smaller gym. You can be a little bit more intimate with your coaching.
And I think the other positive to that is a little less drama and a little less like feeling like you always have something to do. If you there's a pro. If I were going to open another box, like maybe I would go small, cap classes at 6 to 8, you know, so you only have 50 or 60 members. Maybe charge a little bit more, but you know everyone, you coach all the classes, so you're eliminating some overhead, you're, you know, eliminating some drama by having a limited number of people. There's lots of things you can do, and I think there's nothing wrong with running it that way.
Yeah, and she seemed happy, and she purchased the gym from the previous owner, so she's working through some of that and all of the learning curve that comes along with purchasing a business that you probably don't know much about, as a lot of people do. They're just like, I like CrossFit and I'm going to purchase this, and all of a sudden you're thrust into the world of, you know, business ownership, which has its ups and downs. So yeah, I mean, I have, again, a lot of empathy for what she's doing.
And of all the boxes we went to on day 1 of the trip, she had the best music.
She did. She had a lot of like 80s.
80s. I heard some, obviously Bon Jovi. We heard
AC/DC.
a little AC/DC. I think there was some Beastie Boys at one point, some Journey.
I'm pretty sure there was some Whitesnake in there.
Oh, there was definitely Whitesnake. Here I go again. Yeah. So, and you know what? I think you made a point yesterday in the video. You know, not everything might be in the video, but the ground overhead with the plate.
Yeah, I mean, just simple is all I would say.
Yeah, and I mean, I know that, you know, Jason Khalipa of NC Fit programs that all the time for their programming.
And by the way, that got hard.
Yeah, I was like, okay, I'll go 50 unbroken, and I got to like 25, and I was like, I need to put this down for a minute.
Yeah, I think I did 25, and then I think I did 13 and 12.
Yeah, it gets challenging, especially you can cheat that movement and not open your hips because it is light. But if you really emphasize squeezing your butt,
but it's weird
tall,
to do it though. It's not even beneficial to not open your hips.
True, that's true.
Kind of like a kettlebell swing.
True, but point is, you can still coach the, you know, major points of performance of the clean, even though you're using a plate, and then you're saving yourself a ton of space with the barbell.
Yeah, I think the other thing that's cool about that is that, like, I think we all forget that it doesn't have to be complex to be effective. Like, if we think about the things that went down in that workout, so there was a weighted sit-up where we throw the medicine ball.
First time I've ever done that, by the way, against a wall like that.
I was afraid what kind of wall that was. But, so again, not complex.
Right.
Doesn't require a ton of, like, let's say you're not a seasoned coach and you're just worried about, like, coaching all of these things. Like, these things don't require a ton of coaching. Yes, we can coach everything, but we have to acknowledge some things require less coaching than others. Basically a jump squat.
Which I liked. That was the first time I had done that movement also.
We did the ground overhead, and then the other one in the 3 minutes was the plate step-ups on the hands. So it's a static hold in a plank position where I'm just moving my hands from the floor onto a plate that's between my hands. So you're just kind of changing planes there with your hands. But a great way to start baby stepping people into things like maybe walking on their hands or just creating some shoulder stability, and doing 20 reps of that, also not easy. And we've been doing this a long time. And again, it doesn't have to be complex to be effective. Like, I was good after that workout. Like, that was hard enough. I was set after whatever that was, 7 to 9 minutes.
And then good news, you still got to do a minute of burpees after.
Yep, which I'm pretty sure I beat you in, even though you said you did 25.
I did. I have shorter distance.
I was definitely moving faster than you.
You might have been moving faster, but I was moving less.
It doesn't matter.
Science.
Maybe. But yeah, the big thing I really dug about that gym was it's a unique space, you know, because it has like an old, you know, speakeasy feel to it because it's in that historic district. Super, super tight community. And everybody there was really, really easygoing. Like they were very welcoming to us. Like we did a ton of joking around before the class even started.
Well, I think that was one of the benefits we found from that small class, meaning just number of people, but then also like there's nowhere to hide.
And she said that too. She brought that up. She said from a coaching standpoint, from an interaction standpoint, like you can't get away there, which is cool.
That was probably the only box where we left knowing everyone's name and a little more about everybody, which I really liked.
Yeah, because who is it, Jonathan?
John Blaze.
Yeah.
See, we even know his last name.
I didn't get his last name, but that was a good job. But, he was telling us before, like, he lost 40 some odd pounds in the past year.
So, really cool. Thanks for having us at Hayes Barton, and great music. There's a new order upon us.
That was, I don't know where to go with that, but yeah, I like it.
New Order CrossFit is what I'm talking about.
I got it.
About.
Okay. Yeah.
So we
thought
showed
it was
up.
going to be slightly more creative, but I should know better at this point.
We showed up at New Order CrossFit, and they were not expecting us.
They were not. There was a little a miscommunication there. However,
and again, it wasn't on our end. Sydney, shout out, great job organizing this trip.
It doesn't really matter that like she rolled with it.
I was impressed. Pinda was her name.
Peanut in Dutch.
Peanut in Dutch. What was her real name?
Victoria.
Oh man, look like an elephant over here.
There you go.
I was highly impressed by her because I find most people, but especially women, getting thrust onto a camera, they're not happy about it. She didn't get phased.
I felt for like a minute on the front end of that, like when we walked in and we kind of introduced ourselves, there was like about 60 to 90 seconds of uneasiness, and then I think she just was like, okay, it'll be fine.
All right, fair enough. But I mean, not a lot of women might have been like, hey, I gotta put makeup on, or I'm not wearing what I would want to wear. So I mean, she didn't care about that, which is really cool. But then also, like we discussed about other boxes, she was about to get filmed coaching.
Yeah.
And she was just like, yeah, I'm ready. So let's talk about a New Order CrossFit. Man, day 2 of our road trip, we both woke up this morning sore.
Sore is an understatement. I feel like a train wreck.
Yeah, like we have bits of rhabdo in different parts of our body. Like we're tired, our body's tired. We're, like we've said before, we're sleeping in strange places. We're eating out of, Whole Foods mostly. We had some chicken and waffles today.
Cool gym though, so it's in this shopping center, like a nicer shopping center, but a massive amount of open window storefront.
Super bright.
I mean, the entire gym is floor to ceiling windows open to the public to look at.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, very welcoming, and I think I think I felt Pinda was a great coach in the sense that immediately she connected. Mm-hmm. Like. She was one of those people where you feel like, hey, I've known this woman for a long time.
Yeah, it was a joy for me to watch her scold you for an hour.
She did. But it's important. Like, she got my sense of humor, I got hers, and we were good. She did the same to you. But let's talk a little bit about the class. It was programmed to have 45 minutes of work.
Correct.
Just in the programming itself.
Yeah.
So not in talking about anything else in that 1 hour. There was a 30-minute piece, which was the WOD, which you could have finished in under 30, but it wasn't happening. I mean, no one will finish that workout today.
For 3 rounds, probably. I mean, listen. I mean, we're not the fittest people on earth, so it is doable. But I would tell you, you really have to be pushing the pace to finish 3 rounds in 30 minutes.
A fit person can probably average under 10 minutes on those, but they would be trucking to do that.
Typically, I look at that, and if somebody who's pretty fit, if you're off pace in round 1, I typically don't feel the time domain is correct.
Yeah, right. That you would have had to be like 8 or 9 minutes on that first round to get to 9 or 10 minutes on round 2 and hang on to round 3. So it was a lot before that.
But I do want to, so there was no barbell. So we did have 2 pieces. So there's kind of the skill piece on the front end, which is some wall walks and some ring rows. But there was no barbell, which I was incredibly happy to see this morning. So it was just straight up monostructural and a little bit of gymnastics with a burpee box jump over. And that's a staple at our gym, and I believe they use CompTrain.
Yeah, they
And I
said.
believe that's a Ben Bergeron staple too, which is at least once a week, no weightlifting.
Well, and I thought two things about that. I thought one, if you are going to program so 45 minutes of the hour is moving, you're keeping it simple, right? Because the Metcon had what, biking, rowing, running, and then burpee box jump.
Yep.
So everything can be taught, everything could be coached. But
You could even skip out if you really like. You could not teach any of that.
that's what I'm saying. I mean,
Yeah.
while you could, I can.
It's doable. I'm not
teach
saying you should do that,
hours
but,
on the
like-
bike alone, as could you, or rowing or running, but you also could get away with none.
Correct.
And then the wall walk and the ring row, while again, don't require a ton of teaching, but they could. You know, it's less likely someone's going to hurt themselves. It really becomes, hey, you're either doing wall walks, or here's your scaled option.
That is typically what we would describe in our gym as like a moving day, where this is
Yes.
kind of just a mindless 30 minutes of just moving. Nothing requires an incredible amount of my attention mentally. I don't have to allocate a ton of concentration to anything. I just have to move continuously until this clock stops
But
going.
you know, the other thing I wanted to really praise about that was, I think more boxes can learn from that, and that you don't necessarily need to do weightlifting or a barbell to get stronger and fitter.
No.
I mean, we did 30 wall walks by the end. That's going to leave us hurting tomorrow.
So we had 15 minutes to do 30 wall walks and then 40 ring rows with a 2-second pause. Neither one of us finished in the 15 minutes. I think we both got 20 of the ring rows.
Yeah, I got
Ish.
30. I got 30.
I don't know if you got 30, but the 30 wall walks is a lot.
If that would have been the whole thing, that would have been fine. Not just the workout, but I mean, 15 minutes, try to get 30 wall walks.
Yeah, I would have been totally fine with that.
I mean, yeah, we can debate if that was the best programming for that 15 minutes.
I mean, what's good programming? Again, it's like how do we facilitate all of those things? Like
And it's varied, because I've never done 30 consecutive wall walks.
I don't think I have either, actually.
So, I mean, is it a bad thing? No. Was it the most ideal way to maximize intensity or finish that workout? Because if it was 30 and 40 breakup as needed, we both would have finished.
In fairness, I don't think that was a workout. I think that was intended just to be some kind of accessory work, maybe, but on the front end, people would put stuff like that on the back end to try to start developing some skills or some strength in positions that they don't have. So again, we don't have like the crystal ball behind like what the method is behind their programming. So it's not fair to judge anybody on one day of programming. So it was hard. That's all I'll say. Like, it was hard. 30 wall walks into 40 ring rows with 2-minute pause in the pull portion at the top, not the bottom, is hard. And then we went from there into the Metcon.
Yeah, and one thing I took from today, and I think you and I discussed it after, is that's why you join a box, because neither one of us wanted to work out today. We certainly didn't want to do either of those two pieces of the workout, but I think you would agree, both of us, about round 2 of that Metcon actually started to feel good.
I felt much better, and full disclosure, I begrudgingly did those 30 wall walks. Like, at no point did I want to do even one of them.
Right, but even then you get moving, it's fun banter amongst, and that was a great workout where no one's going crazy, the clock's running, but no one's trying to win. So you are talking. You're talking to your neighbor, we're talking to each other, the coach is coming around, and there's nothing wrong with that. But then, the 30-minute piece, by the end, I felt good.
That and I think it's one of those time domains that you typically don't see in a lot of gyms these days, because they're doing multiple parts, and I think that's a little bit of a mistake, because think about a lot of the things that your members are doing outside of the gym. People are doing Tough Mudders, or the Spartan races, or any number of things marathons, or just any number of things that are going to exceed 15 minutes. So if we never kind of touch those time domains, we're probably doing a little bit of disservice. So I always kind of smile inside when I see a gym programming something that falls on the longer end on programming.
And what's Pat Sherwood's quote?
Live your life in couplets and triplets. Go heavy once a week. Go long occasionally.
And I think a lot of boxes err on that, like, go heavy more often and don't go long.
Correct.
And I don't want to go long, but I think that there's certainly a lot of positives to that. And one thing we didn't talk about, though, was how much equipment they had to allow us to be able to do that because everyone had their own bike and rower.
And there was probably 8 people in the class.
I think there's about 8, and I'm sure they have busier classes.
They had extras.
But they probably had,
I think they had 10,
I was gonna
maybe
say,
10 of each.
Yeah, I think they had more rowers and bikes, but still a good amount. So, one thing you could have done if that were too busy is maybe half the class starts on the row, half the class starts on the bike.
Or start them at different points, right?
Yeah,
like just have them flow through the workout the same order, but have somebody start at a different point.
Right, because by the time they get off the
They're not going to catch
bike,
each other.
the next person's running, so you had lots of different options there. But again, I thought it was a extremely fun class for what it was, and I think that comes down to the presence and attitude of a coach. While there wasn't a ton of coaching per se, she kept engaged and she
that's
kept
a
it
tough
positive.
one, and I don't even fault her for that because that is a typical workout where even I can find myself sometimes struggling to coach mid-workout in workouts like that because there's nothing complex going on. Again, it's like how much do we want to dig in on somebody's posture on the rowing? Probably a lot, but sometimes you can just tell that person doesn't want me to talk to them because they're in minute 27 of a 30-minute AMRAP and they're just kind of like.
And while she didn't correct the movement per se, she was a very good cheerleader, and that was a good day to be a cheerleader.
Yeah, because that's a mental grind day.
Yeah, every time I went out the door for the run, it was good job. Or when I would come back, get right to the boxes. Even during the wall walks, like she was busting balls a little bit, but in a fun way that kept me actually wanting to do it. So I had a good time today in that, and it was a well executed hour. She went a couple minutes over, but
45 minutes of work, that's hard not to do.
Yeah, and I will say in fairness, we didn't help.
You didn't help.
I didn't help.
Yeah, I'm compliant. You're not.
But fun class, and I thought it was really obvious of why people should join a box. You try to work out in your garage, you try to work out in a global gym. Cool, maybe you've got some accountability, you got a buddy, but going to the box gets you to work out. All these, and we could talk a little bit about it. They have a second box that has an OPEX gym, and we didn't really get too deep into it, but I would imagine their CrossFit is more successful. Great programming is important. If you want to make it to the next level, you need good programming. Maybe you need individualized, but it's only good if you actually do it. And so many people get individualized programming that they half-ass or skip pieces of it because they're not working out with their buddy.
Well, I also think there's a conversation to be had. Okay, so programming is great, but what are we doing to coach those athletes? Meaning, like, how am I coaching them into better positions over time? Is there a plan to fix their squat posture or their overhead position? Those are the things that really matter. Like, I can dose you up with good programming in air quotes as long as I want to, but at some point, if we're not getting better positions, if we're not working on things like pacing and we're not working on high skill movements and developing capacity in high skill movements or more load, and simply having a program doesn't allow an athlete to do that. Like, I can give you a bunch of spreadsheets and that's not going to make you a better athlete. I need to be involved in the development in that person as an athlete. So yeah, great programming is good, but again, Pat Barber said this many, many times. He's like, listen, a great programming it doesn't have a whole lot of worth with a coach who can't facilitate it. But I can take a great coach, give them shitty programming, and they're going to make it very, very effective.
Yeah, and not to bash that guy, there was a guy there training on his own, and he was doing some moderate weight deadlifts, and I was watching. He didn't stand up all the way once. And
maybe that was in the program. I don't know.
I don't think the programming called for partial range of motion deadlifts. And again, not bashing because he was fitter than I am. The dude
He's
was
fit.
The
He's
dude was
fit.
cranking. But that's a great example of you're working out on your own. He wasn't trying to cheat. He wasn't trying to short the range of motion. But if no one's there to say, hey, squeeze your butt, stand up, get your shoulders back, might not happen. Then you go to a competition or life demands you to stand all the way up, and all of a sudden you can't. Okay, that was a little.
You'll be able to stand up. Yeah,
that was a little extreme, but you get the point. Anyway, thanks New Order CrossFit. Yeah. I was going to say New World Order, like New the World NWO. Yeah. But thanks New Order CrossFit for having us. We appreciate you, Pinda. Sorry if Fern distracted you. Box number 5 on the inaugural road trip.
The inaugural road
Are
trip.
we going to do this again?
Once a quarter.
Once a quarter.
Putting it out on the internet, so now it has to happen.
All right, where are we going to? Actually, if you're watching this, tell us where we should go. Don't just tell us to come to your box.
Yeah, it needs to be somewhere where there's a high concentration of gyms so that we can do something like what we're doing in Raleigh, which is getting to 10, maybe 11 gyms in 4 days.
Yeah, a lot of training, but more importantly, we have we have a hub here at the head house.
That's right.
Highly recommend this Airbnb. Check them out. I'm going to give them 3 stars as of now. Only because
They wouldn't cook us breakfast.
there was no breakfast included. But anyway, today on our second box, we went to
CrossFit TTG, which is trained to go.
Train to Go. Yeah, I saw it on the wall there.
Yeah.
They had Trust the Process also, and I was like, TTP.
Nope,
There's a
that's
mistake
not
somewhere.
it. Yeah, it's a spelling error.
But
I was not pumped to see the workout just because I'm feeling like a bag of hammered dog crap. But
yeah, it was upset.
it was a snatch complex. However, so I didn't want to see that workout, not because I don't think it was a good workout, because of how I feel. I was happy to see just a heavy lifting day.
Yeah, and again, we've said this numerous times. We're not knocking, we're not praising. Everybody has been super welcoming. We're grateful. Great programming, Juice.
Yes, Juice. Listen,
Not
well
Jews.
done. Juice.
He wasn't Jewish, I don't think.
No, you're Juice.
I'm Juice.
Yeah, he's Juice.
He's Juice.
Yeah.
That was his name.
Juice. Yeah,
I don't know if that was a nickname.
I'm pretty sure it's a nickname.
You can't name somebody Juice?
I didn't say you could. I'm just saying.
We went to Pinda this morning.
But that's her nickname.
All right.
Yeah.
Anyway, Juice was,
He was great.
first of all, crazy strong. He hit a snatch complex at 280 something.
Juice falls in the not weak bucket. Yeah. He
Yeah.
snatched 282 for a complex, his snatch into an overhead squat. And he did 275 for a 3, or I think he did something close to 275 for a 3 position snatch.
Yeah, I did 115.
You're weak.
No, 125. But let's talk about it. The programming itself, first box that we went to, and while it wasn't a classic heavy day, there was really 2 different EMOMs happening. It was similar movements, so he was able to. It was the first box we went to where there was actually teaching that happened right beforehand with the PVC, and not the first box, but probably the one that spent the most time with it. And really walked around giving some good coaching. Like, what were some of the best things you saw from Juice?
That was the thing that jumped out to me immediately was you weren't happy about going below parallel immediately, but you moved like trash.
Yeah. So we could talk about that.
Yeah.
Juice kind of said, hey, welcome to class. Grab some PVC. We're going to do a snatch.
Snatch, go.
And I was like, oh, I need to do something before
in
getting
his defense, you're doing the PVC pipe, and to some degree, like there's large argument that like that's not necessarily wrong. Like
No,
it's a
you
PVC,
should be able to do
it's
that.
It's a PVC pipe.
And you should be able to get up out of bed in the middle of the night and snatch PVC.
Yeah. What makes it hurt is if that's your 5th training session in 2 days, and then your body hurts. So no, what I was super pumped because anytime somebody breaks out PVCs, I get a little intrigued. How are we going to do this? And then what I thought he did really well, again, group management. He called all the reps. He was holding people in positions. He was making corrections on athletes. And I thought it was really, really, I was pumped as a coach who coaches coaches to see that. And I don't think he did that because we were there, because I don't think he knows who we are.
No, I don't think he gave a shit that we were there. I think he was super cool. And in addition to that, once we actually started, he walked around to every athlete, including you and me, gave us coaching.
Yep.
And held me to it. Some of the coaching he was giving me on the high hang was that I was bringing the bar too low, and it's like, who cares? But he was like, no, hold there and go. And then he followed up with me on multiple reps, and I appreciated it. It actually, we talk about it in the actual episode, but it made me drop the weight and really focus on my form and technique, which I would not have done had he not done that.
Yeah, and he came around and corrected me on a couple of things. We talked about he kind of addressed my mindset. He could see I was not really happy about what was going on because I was just feeling like crap and not moving really well. And we talked about that briefly, and it was refreshing to see that he was in tune with where I was at. And I didn't get a chance to talk to him because he coached the class immediately after that one. But I did want to find out what his background was, because I have a sneaking suspicion that it was athletics of some sort, because he just looks like a brick shit house. Like, I mean, he's a stout man.
Yeah, a very strong looking individual. And I think other things that he did well was there were clearly different skill levels. You know, we might have had the most skill even if we weren't moving the most weight in that class, but there was like kind of middle of the road people, like Justin you were talking to, who's taking his level 1, his level 2.
Yep.
But then there was also some women, you know, moving very light loads and new to it.
Yeah, so Meredith, who was right behind me, she had come from like a traditional bodybuilding where she was comfortable with the basic compound lift, squat, pulling, pressing, but she admitted to me that she was very uncomfortable with the Olympic lifts, and I don't think she exceeded anything that looked like maybe 55 pounds, and that would have probably been on the high end. And I thought Juice did a good job, because he addressed this during the brief, which was if you don't feel comfortable with those movements, then maybe we just do a couple more reps and keep the weights light. And again, I also think that's a mark of a good coach, kind of giving those people an out who are not comfortable with, so they don't feel compelled to put more weight on the bar than they should, move like trash. And then this is where all of the bad things about CrossFit start to come up. You know?
Well, and something we didn't address is, you know, yesterday especially, many of the boxes had different tracks. Today would have been an easy day to be like, all right, sport, you're doing snatches, fitness, you're rowing, right?
Yeah.
Or whatever the case is. And that wasn't the option. It was, hey, you're doing snatches. You might do more reps per EMOM since it's going to be a little easier for you, but you're still snatching.
Yeah, and this goes back to, we did our podcast on the snatch, and everybody can and should snatch. It doesn't mean you should snatch heavy load. It doesn't even necessarily mean you should snatch below parallel and go into a full snatch. We should be able to do something that resembles a snatch, so that we can talk about what kind of coordination, what kind of accuracy do you have, like what kind of positions can you get into. And again, we can do that with a PVC pipe, and I thought he had a really wide variety of athletes in that class. I mean, it was everything from like literally training bars to, you know, in the probably like mid hundreds in there for complexes. So I mean, that's good stuff. Like that's the things that you really should see and should be doing in a CrossFit gym. And because if people can't do that, then we're robbing them of development.
Yeah, without getting a broader brush overview of his programming, I like that he had the heavy day, and then he still finished with a little bit of, you know, skill slash, what would you refer to that as?
That's just more just like a
grunt work almost.
I think just like good old fashioned accessory work. So we were just doing front rack holds with kettlebells, and like I really dig that stuff because
I like it too.
Because what people end up doing which is exactly what we ended up doing, which was doing a lot of bullshitting during that time with all other people. We paired up, we were pairing up and going back and forth. So what they had programmed at the end, kind of a cash out, was 4 rounds of 1 minute on, 1 minute off, front rack holds with kettlebells, hold the heaviest that you can hold. So it's easy to partner up or get into a group of 3 or 4 or even 6 if you wanted to, and just kind of round robin something like that. And so we're working on midline stabilization while getting to interact with people and that's where we had a lot of interaction with Juice too, just kind of joking around, and he was like correcting me on my crappy leaning back position because I overshot the weight on the static hold.
Yeah, and while he was kind of like busting our balls a little bit, he was coaching. Like,
yeah,
you went down in weight because he basically told you were doing it wrong.
Again, that's a very subtle skill set, which is like I'm gonna rib you a little bit so you to get into a better position.
And I thought he did a good balance. I mean, I would argue, hey, that could have been a little better organized.
But it is one of those things where it doesn't need to be, right? Where that you can let that kind of run amok, and you can let that be what the members own, and they do that on their own. Because he also said it wasn't mandatory. It's like, you can do this. He started the clock and he said start whenever you want to, which is what we do something very similar with the accessory work at our gym, which is do some of it, do all of it, do none of it. I don't particularly care. It's there for you.
Yeah, and then especially when you're going to coach back-to-back classes, like he finished working out, coached, was going into his second class, and you know he was throwing a little bit of food down, and and that's a good opportunity where it's like he's able to chill, and it's just the vibe you create.
Yeah.
Right. Like he was clearly on for the snatches, and that was, you know, lower skill. You're just holding some weights. He can have his pineapple or whatever he was eating there.
He was eating some fruit,
Yeah,
which is
while
fine.
still,
Because he's
still
going to
kept
coach.
coaching.
He was going to coach 3 back-to-back classes.
That's a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot.
That's a lot. Keep that in mind if you own a boxer or you're a coach. It's probably one too many. We've talked about that before.
I mean, if it's your job, I think you should be able to coach 3 back-to-back classes. I think you can coach 5 classes in a day very easily if there's a break.
If there's a break, in a day, if there's a break. 3 is kind of that upper limit, but I think Juice did a great job with us. Great space.
Yeah, super wide open, really, really wide open, and again, storefront. And what I thought was really good, and this is kind of a branding and messaging thing, I don't know if you noticed, but so they have their big letters on the front, which is probably mandated by the shopping center, but then they have kind of like those high windows that are like, so they have brick from probably from the floor to probably like 6 to 7 feet, and they have like windows just above that. And each one of those, he basically had the services listed. So if those people that are like, hey, what is CrossFit? And then it says group classes, personal training, yoga, nutrition. It's very clear what they offer there. So if you have the ability to do that in your gym and just say, this is what we offer, you automatically answered many of the questions that I have about what's going on in that facility.
What did you think about the fact that he had his phone number on the door? Because I assume that was his cell phone.
I don't know. I think you should have a phone number listed somewhere.
Well, he had him and Scott, I think was
their
name.
co-owners.
They're co-owners,
Yeah.
And they had both of their numbers on the door. Would you put your phone number out on the door?
I only just recently stopped giving my phone number out.
So a member comes up to you and wants your phone number. What do you say?
I give them the gym phone number because that line, if they leave a message in the gym on the gym line, I get a notification with the voicemail to my email.
What do you use for that? Google Voice?
That's just Cox. We use Cox Cable for that. Then I use a text app, ZipWhip, which is if they can text that line, and that line goes to the app on my phone. So I'm regularly having text conversations with members from my phone that is not my cell phone number.
Right, but I mean, it's all the same thing, but I just thought it was cool, but a little scary. Not scary for like Juice or for the members, but more so just like...
nobody's going to scare Juice. We can get that out of the road.
But more so just like, here's my phone number out there. I think it's cool though, because like we said, if I were new, showed up and the door was locked and saw that, I'd be like, okay, cool, I have somebody to call, I have a number, probably text. Everyone's going to text this day and age. And
you should have that, and I think as a new gym owner, most people would probably give their cell number. But at some point, you have to make that break where you have to create boundaries. You can't text me at 9 p.m. at night when I'm with my kids eating dinner or like trying to put them to bed or something like that. So I think at some point you have to make that transition. But all in all, I thought it was a great box. I thought Juiced had some really, really good coaching going on in there, and clearly they have a strong community. So like I just didn't want to do that workout, but again, I'm glad we did.
Yeah, another example of the last thing I wanted to do was snatch, but actually left feeling better.
Yeah.
Thanks, Juice.
Appreciate it, bro.
Thanks for listening to Best Hour of Their Day. If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain. First of all, it's free. How cool is that? There's a creation tool that allows you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer, so it becomes super simple. Some of these episodes with Fern or Todd or myself chatting with one another, we've done right within the app itself. Anchor will make it easy to distribute your podcast to all platforms, Spotify, Apple, and many more. And you can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make an awesome podcast in one place. All you have to do is download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started today. Come on, who doesn't have Spotify at this point? And if you were unaware, Spotify now is offering podcasts. That's right, on Spotify you can listen to all your favorite artists, but also podcasts in one place for free. Spotify has a huge catalog of podcasts on every topic, including the one you're listening to right now, Best Hour of Their Day. On Spotify, you can follow your favorite podcasts so you never miss an episode. Premium users can even download episodes to listen to offline wherever you are, something I always do before I hop on a plane. And you can even easily share what you're listening to with your friends on Instagram and other social media platforms. Here's the deal. If you haven't done so already, be sure to download the Spotify app, search for Best Hour of Their Day on Spotify, or browse some other podcasts if you want. You can find them in your library tab. And also make sure to follow me so you never miss an episode of Best Hour of Their Day. Thanks again for listening to Best Hour of Their Day. Just a reminder, Fern and I have an amazing new show called Dropping In, premiering on our YouTube channel in early 2020. Be sure to head over to the Best Hour of Their Day YouTube channel now. Subscribe so you don't miss any of the episodes. You've probably heard us talking about it, summarizing some of our trip. You can see some highlights up on our Instagram as well at Best Hour of Their Day. But I promise you, you're not going to want to miss out. So subscribe now. Thanks for everything you do. Thanks for letting us be a part of your lives. Hope you have a great rest of your day. Tune in tomorrow for another episode of Best Hour of Their Day.